Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us tonight to celebrate the new novel by Ryka Aoki, Light from Uncommon Stars. She's here in conversation with Charlie Jane Anders, Booksmith BFF, and author of Even Greater Mistakes. Yes, my name is Evan Karp. I'm the events manager for Booksmith. We're an independent bookstore and mainstay of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district since 1976. Without further ado, I'm super stoked to introduce tonight's stars. Charlie Jane Anders is the author of Victories Greater Than Death, the first book in a new young adult trilogy, which came out in April of this year, and Never Say You Can't Survive, which came out in August. It's a book about how to use creative writing to get through hard times. And coming out soon, which you can pre-order from us now, is a short story collection called Even Greater Mistakes. Her other books include The City in the Middle of the Night and All the Birds in the Sky. Her fiction and journalism have appeared in the New York Times, The Washington Post, Slate, McSweeney's, Mother Jones, The Boston Review, Tor.com, Tin House, Teen Vogue, Conjunctions, Wired Magazine, and other places. Her TED Talk, Go Ahead, Dream About the Future, got 700,000 views in its first week. With Annalee Newitz, she co-hosts the podcast, Our Opinions Are Correct. And Ryka Aoki, she, her, is a poet, composer, teacher, and novelist whose books include Hey Mele Ahilo and 2 Lambda Award finalists, Seasonal Velocities and Why Dust Shall Never Settle Upon This Soul. Ryka's work has appeared or been recognized in publications including Vogue, Elle, Bustle, Autostraddle, Pop Sugar, and BuzzFeed. Her poetry was featured at the Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center, and she was honored by the California State Senate for extraordinary commitment to the visibility and well-being of transgender people. Congratulations on the new book, Ryka, and
thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie Jane, so much for leading the conversation. Everybody, thank you all for being here, and enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just kick it off. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And, you know, it's such an honor to get to be here with Ryka, who I've known. We were just realizing Ryka performed at Writers for Drinks back in 2004.
2004.
We've known each other for at least 17 years. And, you know, neither of us has like collapsed into like a pile of dust yet. So that's exciting. And yeah, I mean, I just love Light from Uncommon Stars so much. I've been shouting about it for the past year, year and a half. And it's great that I can finally shout about it and people can buy it. And you should buy it. Buy it now. Get it from freaking Booksmith. Booksmith is an amazing bookstore. I'm just going to keep repeating for the rest of this conversation. Booksmith is a great bookstore. You should support them. But I love Light from Uncommon Stars so much. And I feel like what I'd love to hear first of all is just like, how long were you working on that book? And can you kind of talk us through the journey of like writing that book and how it came to be?
Like how just sort of like the journey was it's been a bit, it's been a journey. So anyway, the book started after Himalaya. I was thinking, well, what am I going to do next with all of my other books? And so I decided to come back to a novel. This actually starts with, you remember Katrina back from the day? There was this, our friend, I think our mutual friend, Katrina James, back now.
Yes, absolutely. She's still around. I was just chatting with her. Yeah.
So that was way, way back when Katrina was with Sherilyn. And she was thinking that, and later on Hurricane Katrina had hit. And she was very sad at the time because, you know, people would say, oh, Katrina, like the hurricane. And she would say, and so we were just kind of like talking. And I said, you know, that sucks. And I'm going to write a book and I'm going to make the hero Katrina. And and the book is going to get published and it's going to get famous so that when people say, you know, is it Katrina like the hurricane? They can say, well, no, it's like the book. And then that'll help you maybe. And so that was years ago. We ensured in the time of Hurricane Katrina. And, but I was finally able to tell her, I promised, here's the book. And
oh my God. I hope she appreciated it. That's pretty amazing.
It's one of the cool things. Yeah, go.
I didn't realize that the main character was named after our Katrina. Like,
named after our Katrina. And you know what a cinnamon roll Katrina is. So I mean, our Katrina.
Yeah.
And you know, I just really thought, I'm a writer. This is one of the few times being a writer means that I can actually recontextualize a signifier. Let's go ahead and make it mean something else. And so that kind of happened. And originally, Light from Uncommon Stars had started out as a far more, I never intended it to bring it, I hadn't rather intended to bring it to Tor, because at the time I was working far more within literary fiction, and also I was unaware of a lot of the good stuff that Tor was doing. I mean, I knew you, I mean, who doesn't, but all of the other, all of the other writers who had been coming up. So I thought, queer trans writing, that meant, small presses, that meant presses like Topside and a few of these other presses, who had published Camellia Hilo, my last book. And so
that's what it used to mean. Like, that's what it meant not that long ago,
And you remember when, it's like, trans people, trans women would have a knockdown drag out fight to be the one trans writer that this one feminist press would publish, right? Those were not good days.
They were not good days. Oh God. Yeah. I still have some bruises, Oh my God.
So what ended up happening was I wrote this book, and then I got a call from an editor over with Random House, and so this is Random Penguin, and so working with them, I wrote for like 2 years on this book, and it started out as a genre. I'm thinking I'm going to write a genre fiction book, and I'm going to pass it off as lit fic. I'm going to do a Western. Ooh. So I had revolvers, and I had all this kind of stuff going on, and it was kind of working, and I was playing around with the characters, and Katrina, you're listening at the time, you were going to learn how to shoot a Colt revolver, that had magic bullets coming out of it. We had it all set up. But then I saw a donut shop, Randy's Donuts in LA, and I thought, no, we got to have donuts. There's going to be a Stargate. I guess we're going science fiction. And then turns out afterwards, the Random House Penguin thing kind of fell through. I kid you not. My editor, I guess, sat on my manuscript for a few months and then decided to become a Buddhist monk. Left the industry, became a Buddhist monk. To this day, I'm wondering, did my manuscript have anything to do with that? It's like, I don't know.
That decision?
I read your draft, and I'm leaving the industry. I hope not. That would have been horrible. But anyway, but people have life changes, and I'm not going to say anything more there. And they did push my book towards some agents, and that's how I got Meredith Kaffel-Siminoff, my beautiful, cool, amazing agent who does beautiful, cool, amazing things for my work, and brought it to Tor. And suddenly I was reunited with the science fiction fantasy community that I had been a part of in college and in high school, and had read and had done all that. But now I finally got there. And my first question was, Tor, they want me? What? Really?
That was my response too, when they wanted to publish me. Yeah.
Do they understand? And my first thought was, do they understand who I am? Do they understand that I'm like hella queer? But they loved everything that I thought would make my book unpalatable to a mainstream press. They loved the queer, they loved the donuts, they loved the fact that I was mentioning Bartok. Think about this. I want to make my break into publishing. I'm going to write about this obscure Hungarian composer no one's ever really thinking about. I'm going to add donuts, make it all trans, throw in, they did, I don't know. And I got connected with Lindsay, who's an amazing, amazing editor. Once we had Meredith and Lindsay in place, I realized we're going to be okay. They're very, very good at what they do. Lindsay's amazing at what they do. That's the thing about Tor. It's like they've really given me a quick sort of lesson in how to be a novelist.
They're amazing, and I'm so glad we're label mates now. That's so
I
awesome.
know. And
Yeah,
that's the other
so
thing. It's like there's this feeling that we're label mates, and I've met so many really just spectacularly friendly and cool writers. I mean, Jen Lyons just emails me out of the blue saying, "Hey, I know it's your release. It's the first time here for you. If you need anything or you need to talk anything or you're going crazy, I'm here for you. You know that." I mean,
oh, that's so awesome. I love Jen. She's the
whoa,
best.
these are like cool. And you're the best. I mean, these are just such cool people. And so anyway, the story, and then after that, it becomes all the edits, and then it becomes, oh, here, let me show you this. So here I have this, right? This is case in point with Tor. Okay, so this is take up space. This is the promo pin.
I know. I really wanted one of those.
You're
They're
going to
so
get
beautiful.
one. You're going to get one. I will
Okay,
figure a way to
good.
get from. If it means that if it
No,
means that
no.
I sent it
You're
to
not
you
going to
from
give
my
up
home.
yours.
But anyway, when this first came out, Everina has this one, right? Everina Maxwell, whose beautiful book Winter's Orbit has Space is Gay. And then they wanted me to continue with Space is Gay as a I guess as a theme. And I thought, okay, I can do that. But gay is its own thing. And yes, I guess you could call me that. I guess you could. I mean, technically, I'm a lesbian. You can call, but that's not the most important thing here. I'd rather use this time to do something for the trans community because I want to bring, it's like that means a lot to me. Could we possibly honor this, but do something else for us? Because, to say that gay means trans and everything else is kind of like saying mankind means everything else, and bad things happen when it means everything else. And they did this.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, and they came up with the trans colors and take up space, and they were also supportive. And so that's just an example of, I think, how cool Tor has been.
I love them. And I feel like the young people are using gay to mean just everything. I feel like gay now is kind of an umbrella term almost. It's weird. So, okay, I really love the relationship between, actually all the relationships in this book, like especially the relationship between Katrina and Shizuka, her violin teacher, and then Shizuka's relationship with Lantran, the donut maker who's secretly an alien refugee. Like, I think that, part of why this book is so welcome and lovely right now is because it's such a warm, friendly book in which people are genuinely, kind, which I think we're all kind of really needing right now. So was that always the case? Did you kind of like, were there versions of it where, Shizuka was maybe more of a jerk to Katrina, or there was more spiky relationships? Because I love how friendly and sweet it is now.
One influence that I never talk about, which I probably should, is Little Princess, with this book. And I really wanted that sort of situation. So it was always going to end well, if so much as, pointing a giant middle finger to all of those other renditions of trans people where we die just so we can teach a lesson to the cisgender main character, where, oh, she's an angel looking down on us. We'll always remember her and her wisdom. No, I don't want to be the angel. I want to have pie after the novel, after the story is over. I want to have dysfunctional relationships. I want to have pie, and maybe I'll get some more of those. Jollibee just came out with a chicken sandwich. I really want to try that. So I got better things in my life to do than be a moral to your story. So that's why I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be all right. What I did have to tone down, though, was my depictions. People, are saying that, that this book, they've been critics calling this book in a good way. They said, unflinching and going over some tough stuff and things. But as well as I do how much I toned that down. There were some things there that I wrote that I had to not put in, because sometimes it's not our job as writers to give people reality. It's to indicate the reality. And if reality becomes, there comes a certain point where it's like, maybe that detail is true, but you have to sort of grow up and you have to kind of be trans to know where this one is coming from. So I think I'm going to kind of indicate that with a few other details and bring it through. So what ended up happening with this book is I was, what I did really craft was a narrative that was real enough, but not so real that it would be a journalistic piece and there'd be prurient interest in it, and it would become trauma porn.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to write about a lot of aspects of trans life without, for a cis reader, or for at least partly or maybe mostly cis readership, without, being titillating or trauma porn or whatever. I mean, one of the things I love about your book, incidentally, is the way that you kind of show some of the realities of sex work, and kind of, show how how unpleasant and terrible it can be, but also it kind of destigmatizes the sex work. We never stigmatized Katrina for being a sex worker, which I really appreciated. So, I'm sorry.
I mean, no, I mean, it's like sex work is something that people do. I mean, and you have to sometimes do things to get by. The only thing that Shizuka is worried and concerned with is that, you get what you're worth.
Yes, which I love that scene. That scene was like one of my favorites, and just like I was like, hell yeah, that is awesome. I love that. And so I was gonna say, I've read a lot of books set in LA. Like I feel like LA gets more books and movies and TV shows set there than most other cities. And I felt like one of the things I loved about your book was that it showed me a different kind of version of LA than the one I normally see.
I'm so
You
glad.
know, and like, it's an LA that feels a little bit more, there's more strip shop malls and donut shops and like little restaurants that are like kind of have amazing food. And we should talk about the amazing food descriptions. But it's also an LA that's like kind of more, the Asian community's view of LA. And, you know, I wanted to sort of talk about getting that sense of place, like, which I think is so important. How did you go about doing that? How did you go about capturing your version of LA?
Mm.
And
So,
making it a character in the book, kind of.
well, when I was first writing about, this this place as character, one thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to show history. So if you notice, whenever I mention a place, I say this used to be that, which used to be that store, and that store used to be a nail salon. And what I'm trying to do here is make you feel as if you had just moved in and somebody is telling you where everything is. So I was using that as a device. The other thing was trying to create space, not just by telling you names, but also smells and sounds and tastes, therefore food. Um, I wanted to set, different communities. So you have a more working class place like El Monte or Monterey Park, and then the really nice places like Arcadia, to show that this is not a flat two-dimensional dot on a map. There's nuance here and there's life here. And also when when Lan is translate using that voice scrambler, to scramble into different languages. Like for example, her voice scramble. Just for those of you who don't know, there's this voice scrambler that they speak in the language that nobody else is speaking in the restaurant, so they can go on with their conversation, and nobody else can understand them. That was an opportunity for me to talk about all the other languages that had been there, and so all of these. You know how Disneyland, for example, it's not necessarily the ride, it's the garbage can, it's the hinge, it's the doorknob, it's all the places that you're looking at that let you know that, happiest place on earth. I wanted to do that with this. That's why I spent so much time on the minutia. I really wanted to show that, wherever you look, I'm going to give you something a little bit odd, so you're somewhere else, but I'm going to make it all inhabited by characters that I hope you identify with.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and I think it just works so well. And another thing that I loved about this book is that I feel like there's a trope, especially lately. I feel like there's a trope in a lot of supernatural stories where souls are currency, and like you have to get souls. And like there was a lot of episodes of the TV show Supernatural where they're trying to
Mhm.
get more souls and like blah blah blah. And I feel like you kind of juxtapose this storyline about getting souls with a storyline about the things that kind of nurture your soul, like music and food and community and accepting your transness and just like all the things that Shizuka does for Katrina, and that Lan to some extent does for Shizuka. Like how I'm just, why was it important to you to have like soul nurturing situations alongside this idea of souls as currency, and why do you have to pay a high cost to have that kind of nurturing?
Because I'm transgender, damn it. Uh, but back in the day, we were talked about, in the days of listservs, alt, sex, gender, and all of those days, right?
Oh my God.
The Kojiati, all of these things, where do you have a male or female soul? And they talked about, and remember all of that talk, I'm actually a woman's soul in a man's body, that whole type of discussion, you know, I don't know. I don't know if you're old enough. I am. We were there. We saw a lot of this.
Oh my God. I tried to understand my transness from Usenet like way, way, way back. That was a terrible mistake.
Well,
Usenet.
that's all we had. It's not like we could suddenly like, jump in and like read, Meanwhile Elsewhere, or just a book, the latest book from Charlie Jane Anders. We had what we had. And but this idea of a soul kind of stuck with me. And also, a lot of even nowadays, the younger trans folk, there's all these creation myths, right? Why am I here? Why am I in this situation? Um, and so the idea of selling souls, I thought, wait a minute, if Shizuka is only interested in souls, she's going to see past all of this. And then so when she
Oh,
tells
interesting.
Katrina, we're not interested, in my business, we're not interested in bodies, we're only interested in souls. That is the crux of it. It's like what makes what makes Shizuka so horrible and terrifying to so many people, it makes her the queen of hell. That point of view is actually what saves her and allows her to connect with Katrina, because Katrina says, well, I guess if you're just interested in my soul and you're going to take it, it must have value, but you're also still treating me like Katrina. So I guess I must really be Katrina. So it becomes weirdly affirming
It's
to
I love
Katrina.
all of that, and I got seriously choked up at a lot of those parts in the book, and like, I mean, I don't want to spoil the
I
ending, but I
did.
love how that plays out in the ending. I mean,
Yeah.
you spoiled a lot of the ending, but yeah, and I mean, part of what I loved about this book was, the way you write about food, which, is just so gorgeous. And like you write about food in this really evocative way, and about foods that I don't see written about often enough, but also the way you write about music. And like, um, I'm wondering where those things come from. And also, like, why was it important to kind of hold up video game music as like equally valid as like Bela Bartok or whatever?
Mm-mm. Well, because I think that, well, first off, it's good, and I was stunned by the how music from video games um, did has grown. The other thing, though, is that um, I think I've told people this from time to time. There's this whole idea of people having an inner dialogue or an inner monologue going on. Remember,
Mhm.
like that whole meme thing that was going on maybe a year or two ago? Do you have an inner monologue or you don't? Um,
Oh gosh,
Remember
yes.
that? Remember? And I don't even know what that
Vaguely.
means, but the thing is, I don't, and so for me, there are always soundtracks playing.
Oh, interesting.
And so it really helps me kind of think about music that way. And as and in my apartment, I always have music playing because I have tinnitus. I used to play in a band, and I have ringing in my ear, so there's always music going on. And so so it's kind of natural for me to think about life in terms of soundtracks. The other thing too is being Asian and coming in Asian music culture. There's a lot of kids who are really talented musicians who understand the meaning of music, even though the music they love is from video games and things that aren't thought of as proper music. Whereas people, ironically, who think of music as, you need to play this repertoire, often have lost the meaning of why we even do this in the first place. And the whole idea of music and music, and you're playing from this classical repertoire, and you're going, and music means this, to me is a lot like gender.
Interesting. I mean, it's some of the same gatekeeping and bullshit, right?
Exact same gatekeeping, and validate, like, being trans to me is like being a woman, just of a different genre. And and that's kind of why I wanted to validate that. And this was, I
Yeah.
really, I just started to weave, when I started to weave, resonances and having the themes coming and building on each other. I really wanted to show. So when I'm validating gaming music, it's an alternate way to express what's really important. And that is, you are a musician, and just kind of in the same way as it is, what's important is whatever internal gender you have.
Yeah, I love that. I love all of that. And like, I do really want to talk about the food writing though, too, because I feel like that was one of the things that really like jumped out at me when I read the book, was just like how gorgeous the descriptions of food are. And
Thank
like,
you.
you know, did you have to do a lot of cooking to write that kind of food description? Did you just eat a lot? Did you?
A lifetime of cooking. Uh,
Okay, I
to be
can't
honest
cook.
with you, I did. It's funny. I did zero research on the cooking. That was just off the top of my head,
Okay.
because I've always loved cooking. And I've always loved cooking. I've always loved the preparation of food. When I was, my favorite part of Thanksgiving is preparing the meal. Uh,
Oh, wow.
and things. I'm a horrible baker. I don't bake. I don't do pastries for nothing. I just have a hard time with it. But everything else, I can braise. I can do all kinds of things, and I love cooking. And this was sort of in some ways, this was talking about the cooking was probably the most selfish thing I did in the novel, because I wanted to write about this. And I also wanted to take a big old uh, middle finger and wave it at some of these golden age science fiction writers who I do respect quite a bit on many levels, only they can't write about food for nothing. When was the last time you got when was the last time your mouth watered reading Isaac Asimov and thinking that food sounds great? You see what I'm
I
saying?
I know. Yeah. I
I
mean,
still remember one of the Dune books where they like crack open a worm and they suck the juice, because that was about the only time I ever really, they ever talked about the way something tasted. I don't know.
mm,
Sucking on worm juice. Okay, I'm not going to
worm
read it.
juice.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, there we are. Uh, yeah, it's like, who's your god emperor, babe? But anyway, uh, so, but food is lacking in so many of golden age science fiction writing, and I've often thought that's because dudes don't spend too much time in the kitchen. I've been to enough family dinners where I know where the guys are. They're usually out watching TV and yelling at it because somebody needs to catch a ball. Whereas the rest of us are in the back just cooking and washing dishes. And I wanted to bring that into my community too, because that was the community that I love. That's my community, and that's what I wanted. I wanted people to understand. Don't forget, when you're in space, you got to eat, and someone's cooking for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that it's partly these little comforts and these little kind of like moments of like, it kind of goes along with the kindness in the book. It's like part of what makes this a welcoming, happy book that, and makes the relationships feel so special, is that they're sharing food and everything else. It's like it just kind of adds into it. I guess, fantasy, like George R. R. Martin will write like a 10-page description of food.
Mhm.
And like there are other fantasy authors. I think fantasy authors are the ones who like really go for broke with the food writing. Although often it's not food that I'd really want to eat. I don't know. People are saying in comments that they would like it. Tessa would like a cocktail called worm juice. I would drink with some worm juice, especially if it came in a little worm and you just have to
Mhm.
crack the worm open and just go, oh,
There's this
you
really
know.
nice gin. It's called Botanist, and there's all these little herbs inside it. So maybe that would be part of it. If any of
Ooh,
you like drinking gin as much as I do, but there it is.
ooh.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
So
and I think I think with a lot of those people like Martin and the rest of them, when they're talking about food, they're trying to show that we're in a rougher, more rugged time, or with food that is something that a court would have. A lot of times it's associated with celebration or it's associated with hunting. One of those two things. But I wanted quiet food.
yeah, I love that.
I wanted,
So
cereal and yogurt and tangerines.
so nice. So you said earlier that you made this kind of, I don't know, you made this remark about being like a different genre of woman. And I wanted to ask you about genre because this is obviously a book that kind of takes a very, I don't know, very casual approach to genre. It's got like, deals with the devil, it's got aliens, it's got like spaceships and replicators, but also, magic and stuff. Um, like, do you feel like that kind of goes along with it being like a queer novel in some way? Do you feel like you as a queer author, you want a queer genre by like mixing it up, or do you just feel like that's just the story you wanted to tell? And did you get any pushback about it?
I have gotten more pushback from I got very little pushback from Tor, and I wouldn't call it pushback, but it has been noteworthy to reviewers, who have
Hmm.
called it a mashup and things, both for the good, mostly for the good. Thank Lindsay and my editors. I guess we pulled it off, mostly. But Charlie Jane, it had less to do in this situation with gender, and it had far more to do with being a person of color, an Asian American, and this idea, where uh, people will sometimes demand that I inhabit American space or that I inhabit Asian space. Somebody buys me a drink, suddenly they say, it's like always been into Asians so much, or something like that. And at that
Oh
point,
man.
and so you
Oh.
suddenly, you're stuck in genre, in a rut where they see you as a type of something. And on the other hand, now with all of this coronavirus running around, it's like, suddenly, or during times where my Americanness is questioned, then suddenly I've got to be American. And what I found with genre is genre to me, and the limitations of genre are somebody else's expectations. And the reason I brought genre together was I can you can tell a story. I mean, are you Asian or are you American? I'm both, and I think I'm all right. Last time I checked, I wasn't at war with myself. I think I'm all right. And so when I wrote this book, I thought about um, the different types of genres just being things that from the outside look different, but at the end of the day, it's all one song. It's all love. It's not as far away from each other as you think it is. So, it can work if you let it. I can be both at the same time. I can be many things at the same time. You can be many things at the same time if you let it. So that was it was a very, okay, I admit that was a pretty lofty goal, but hey, it was my first big book deal with Tor. I'm going to shoot for this.
Yeah, and you totally nailed it. And I loved like how it came together. And I loved how the ending kind of uses all the different elements, like almost like you're cooking and you're using all the different ingredients. I don't know.
Oh
Kind
my
of.
gosh. So yeah, I was like at the ceviche place. Okay. All right. So I was, and I had to use the bathroom, and I was at this place that was serving ceviche. And like, I, and in the back, their secret ingredient is, Chinese oyster sauce. And I'm thinking, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, yeah, we're working with each other. We don't admit it because we keep it in the back. But when your secret ingredient in your ceviche is Chinese oyster sauce, don't tell me you're not blending genres.
Legit. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the world of food is so much more fluid about all this stuff than the world of like, you know, than the world of like writing. It's like super weird, or like, I
Mhm.
don't know. I feel like in the food world, it's super hip to just like, mix things up and try different things. And like, that's like considered really cool. So I have like one more question and then we're going to open it up to the audience. But let me remind you all that Booksmith is an amazing bookstore. They really deserve your support. Buy our books from them, buy other books from them.
Yes.
Also, there's a donate button that if you could just donate a few bucks to help Booksmith keep doing events like this, it would be super appreciated. I see that we're up
Yeah,
to
it's one of the
$35 out of $100
disadvantages
goal.
of living in LA is I can't go visit and support. It looks like
Oh man,
just wonderful people, wonderful place.
yeah. So my final question is just like about like Lantran, and you know, she and her family are fleeing some kind of alien war, like an alien civil war. How much of the details of that, like I feel like we get little bits and pieces about that over the course of the book, but how much of that did you come up with? Is there like is there a detailed backstory of like the alien civil war? Are we ever going to get to see more of that?
I remember when I was talking to a friend's family, and they were boat people.
Oh, wow.
And so they were talking about being in a leaky boat, and pirates coming, and all of these things where they would be like in a camp, and the food would be rotting, so they have to eat food, and how they all got out. And that was the inspiration there. That you could literally be refugees, and you're here and you make it, and you think you make it, and you've got a donut shop, but you're horribly scarred. And so many of these Asian families that have come from, and probably most refugee families, it's not just the Asians, you come to a country, you come to the United States, but you still wake up at night in a cold sweat, and you're still there, and I wanted to talk about this, and this whole idea of bringing that trauma with you. In terms of what I want to do with that, I have another novel that I'm working on right now. That's a spin-off of it's in universe with Light from Uncommon Stars, and it actually talks about, I'm not going to say who, but there's a couple characters that actually show up in the next book, but that one is going to be much more of a fantasy book. What I'm hoping is, willing, and if you all support my work, I can ask my agent, can we see if we can fix something up with Tor and get another book? Because what I'd like to do is go into space, because there is a galactic war out there. When we last left them, and it might be, and eventually I want to do that. So if I play everything right, and I do a really good job with this next book, and we move forward, that would be the third novel. So let's just keep our fingers crossed for that,
everybody has to fucking buy Light from Uncommon Stars so we can get that third book. God.
Thank you.
So you have a deal for the second book right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. That is good. That is good. Yeah. So Katrina, the namesake of your main, or I guess the person after whom your main character is named.
Yeah, not just the namesake, the actual person. Yeah. Hi, Katrina.
The originator, the original Katrina, OG Katrina, wants to know if there will be a cookbook companion to Light from Uncommon Stars.
That would be fun. Right now, what I'm thinking about doing, I'm kicking around the idea of taking one of the characters and writing a Christmas story where she's going to do some cooking. So I'm actually thinking about writing an Astrid Christmas story, and just doing that. So yeah, I'm hoping that there will be more recipes, and there will be kind of more good food coming that way. And also the thing about it is, if Tor asks me to, I would have no problem writing a series of recipes, and telling you stories about how different characters like that particular piece, because I actually know what they all ate.
You could post them at tor.com, or I don't know. I would look at that. I love recipes.
Yeah, so I might do that because
cool.
I do know who likes what, and I've gotten my notes. This character eats all this kind of thing.
Nice. So Kate Larson wants to know if the game in your book is Undertale, and if so, what was your playthrough experience?
Okay, so it is largely Undertale, and my playthrough experience, though, is this Undertale came through, and I wasn't playing too many games at the time. I was reading about Undertale and looking through all the endings and looking at all the fan things, but I also listened to the soundtrack many times backward and forward and through. So I was familiar in some ways of seeing that. My nephew was a big Undertale person. So he helped me look through some of the pieces. Understand the game. And I was really fascinated in the same way that Shizuka was, that, you wait a minute, what? You're not killing everybody? What? Oh yeah, you can go the genocide route, but here's this other way. And so I took that, and then what I did was I listened to the music, and I fell on the Undertale soundtrack. Kate, don't you think it's beautiful? It's amazing. And that really, going into that soundtrack, made me think, yeah, I made the right choice. And right now there are Asian parents telling their kids that's not real music. And you know what? I'm going to help them.
Yay!
Thank you for that question, Kate.
Yeah, and by the way, Evan just mentioned in the chat that Booksmith is offering free shipping for orders over $50. So, that's exciting. And we're at about half of their goal for like the $100 that they'd like to, get to cover the cost of this event. So Tucker has a question. You mentioned about a genre mashup, which, I love. As someone who used to go to Booty and stuff, I love mashups. I love musical mashups. So when you were writing it as a genre mashup, how did you know when it was coming together the way you wanted it to? Was there a certain feeling of like, this is right? This is right?
There was a line in my book that had to do with Priuses. And when I wrote that line, I thought, we got it. Because it was exactly the right chemistry that I wanted. We're okay, because suddenly we're navigating LA traffic and we've got two different people bringing in perspectives. I can make this work. So there's actually a set time where I go, yeah, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine here. And
wait, what was the line?
It was about Prius. Oh, well, spoil it. Why the heck not? It was like, no one drives a Prius in space.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that line there. Well, when I wrote that line, it's like, got it. This is going to be fine, because we have character. We have, and for me, a scenario works when the characters in that scenario can grow and develop a relationship. It's fertile ground for character growth. And when I saw that, I thought, yeah, we're going to be fine. When I was writing it, I knew that I was mixing fantasy and science fiction. However, yeah, I thought, detail. Let's write a good story. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that we did it. One of the things also that people were talking about with this book was I switched points of view around rapidly. And I do that much the same reason as also, because when you're talking to people, how many times have you had conversations where, you're this one character here and you're this one character there, but all the stories are important. I was, are you familiar with Hokusai and the different views of Mount Fuji? I think there's 30 something views of Mount Fuji.
Me personally? Or yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you know that there's Mount Fuji is in all the pictures, but sometimes it's behind a bridge, someone's painting, it's close, it's far away. Those aren't interruptions. If you're looking at the pictures, they might look like interruptions, but what they actually are showing how Mount Fujisan, is a part of all of this other stuff that's going on. And that's what I was trying to do, to show that, we have no center story here. The only reason that this looks like it's the center of the story is that's where I chose to crop it.
I love that. And I'm a huge fan of Hokusai. I love all of the ukiyo-e kind of woodcut artists. And you can't see it because of my Zoom background, but I've actually got an ukiyo-e print on the wall behind me. I was like, should I turn off? Whatever.
But the thing is, somebody might say, well, if it's about Mount Fuji, why did you block the view of Mount Fuji? And that's
everything's about Mount Fuji, right?
And that's what, when I was writing this, I was hoping that I could pull something off similarly, where you're going to stop, we're going to go here now, we're going to go here now, but there's a central story that goes all the way through, because that's what we do in this day and age. We occupy many spaces.
Yeah, so we're almost out of time, but we've got time for one or two more questions. I see Kate also asked a question about who in Light from Uncommon Stars, and my novel, Victory is Great. I don't want to make this about me because this is all about you, but
You
who
tell,
in
yeah,
Life
you
from
tell,
Uncommon
you went,
Stars would-
I'm going to let you answer that one because I also do want you to plug your book also as well.
Okay.
I don't
So-
care about, who's got whose time. I want them to like buy your amazing book as well. So go.
Well, so Victory is Greater Than Death is my young adult space fantasy. It's the cover image is behind me because that's the main Zoom background that I've got right now. And, I feel like Katrina would probably be really good friends with Elsa, the kind of Brazilian travesti trans hacker who, who travels into space and joins the crew of this starship. I think that they would be really super good friends, but they might get into some fights occasionally. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Shirley would be just good with the whole bunch of them too.
Yeah.
Bring Shirley
I
along.
don't know.
She
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I don't know. I think I would love if somebody wants to write fanfic that crosses over those two books, I would read the heck out of it.
I would read the heck shit out of it too.
Yeah, and so somebody said that they're halfway through reading Light from Uncommon Stars, and they're just loving it so far. So I mean, I don't know. Do you have anybody else have any last questions? We've got about 6 minutes left. Otherwise, I'm sure I could come up with 1 or 2 more questions myself. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm just thinking for a second because I used up all the questions. Yeah. So,
oh, can I tell you something? So about my trans koi here.
Yes.
There's a hidden story behind this koi too.
Oh.
So this koi is actually canonically trans because we decided, and the nice thing about being an author is you can make things canonical because you're the source of the canon. But this koi is actually space koi. You call her space koi or them space koi, or but space koi is actually, if space koi were in Japan, space koi is not really a koi. Space koi is actually a fantail koi. And a fantail koi is not, there are purists in Japan who say fantail koi aren't really koi. They're these half-breed mixed race koi. The American koi breeders will look at fantail koi quite a bit because there's these beautiful flowing fins. But what this is the interbreeding of Japanese koi with carp from Southeast Asia. And so what you end up having here, because Katrina is part Southeast Asian, this is actually their child of Shizuka and Katrina, their spiritual combination, obviously not a sexual child because they're teacher student, but this was a beautiful combination of them. So this is it's a fantail koi, which would be thought of as not legit, not a classical koi, and yet it's so beautiful because of that.
Oh my God, I love all of that. That's so great. So we've got some more questions. I'm still thinking about more questions of my own, but Chris Gray wants to know, who's your favorite character in, I'm assuming that they mean your favorite character in Light from Uncommon Stars.
Oh golly. They're all my favorite, characters, but the character that I had the most fun writing is actually a very minor character. And that's the character, the Romanian beer fiddle drunken mariachi player, Mr. Zacatecas, because I actually know Mr. Zacatecas. Zacatecas was somebody I kind of hung out, he showed up all beard out when he kind of hit on me and my girlfriend at the time, and he was playing and you could smell the beer, and he says, if you ever want to find me, just ask for Zacatecas. I am Mr. Zacatecas. And so I just never forgot him and his drunk fiddle. And so I decided to make him a character in my book. And so kind of coming in drunk and enjoying his, and the funny thing is he did say, la china to me. And so it was one of those inside joke characters that became something I think kind of fun, because at the end, even he gets some success and he becomes kind of, you could write a whole novel about Mr. Zacatecas, but that is actually, in terms of just pure joy, a character that I felt no pressure writing because I knew that character and I could just do this and everything came out right. I don't think I was ever edited on a single line of Mr. Zacatecas. I don't think Lindsay ever commented on it, because it just, I knew what I was doing. It was fun. I laughed at it. I don't know, Charlie Jane, aren't there just some characters that are just fun to write where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
And
that's
often it's the minor characters. It's the characters who just show up and they're like really fun and then they go away or whatever.
so,
I don't know.
yeah,
So
there was no pressure. It was just fun. Go on.
well, I mean, I just wanted to ask, like, since you mentioned that the next two books, hopefully, fingers crossed, are both in the same universe as this one, will we see any more of Lantran or Shizuka or of Katrina? Are they gonna turn up as minor characters in those books, or are you pretty
I
much
don't want to spoil. At that point, I'm
Okay.
going to say I don't want to spoil, but I am going to
Fair.
say that their effects had an effect, what their actions and what they did changed people's lives. And we are going to see how that goes with that. And so it's been a lot of fun with the next book. I've had to really really study much more of my Japanese, get it from here to here. There's going to be, and so yokai are going to show up, and a few other things are going to show up.
Yokai! Oh my
Yokai
god, that's awesome!
in the next
oh my
one.
god,
But
nice.
but yeah, I mean, if you want to read any more of the universe of Light from Uncommon Stars, there's Himelia Hilo, which actually happens in universe. You notice, I mean,
Oh right, okay.
yeah, there's still that same love for macaroni and potato salad, that shows up there. And there is actually a relative from one to the other. There's a couple Easter eggs I threw back and forth between those two books. So, Himelia Hilo is my first book. The weird thing is, because it came from a very small press, it came from Topside. I've never collected, a dime of royalty from there, but I'm just glad the book is out.
Oh man.
It happens.
So we're pretty much out of time, but the last question we had was also from Kate, and she wants to know, what are you reading right now?
Gosh, what am I reading? It's this really, really beautiful, it's a stunning book. It's, if I can dig it up, swipe to unlock my Kindle, Even Greater Mistakes.
Oh,
it's on my Kindle, and it's by this amazing writer called Charlie Jane Anders. Okay, now here, this one here, okay, so this is a collection of short stories that reads like a book of poetry, I swear. I tried to read this book and just kind of go through short story after short story, but I'm serious. She creates universes with every one of those stories, and they will sometimes devastate you. There are times where it's like, and I'm thinking, how many times can this girl make me cry? And so Charlie Jane, Even Greater Mistakes, when it comes out, because I have an advanced copy, get it, because it really is watching a virtuoso treatment of the short story form.
Oh my god.
It's really, I write short stories and I have fun. Yeah, and I can think of them almost sometimes as prose poems, as vignettes, as scenes, as settings. No. The way Charlie Jane writes it, every story is a main course. I don't know how she does it. Go read the book.
That was completely I was not fishing for that, but thank you.
You don't have to. I mean, it's like tentacles come out of my breast and I suddenly want to embrace everybody.
Well, oh my god, I'm actually speechless now, because that was just beautiful, and also a really kind of arresting image, and I love you and I love your tentacles, and come to San Francisco soon. And everybody, please buy Light from Uncommon Stars. Please buy it from Booksmith. Please just buy everything from Booksmith. Show some love to this amazing store. Show some love to Ryka, this amazing author. And thank you so much for joining us today. And be safe out there.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and thank you for reading and just supporting bookstores like this. And really, I'm just so humbled, and thank you. Just thank you.
Well, thank you both so much, and this has been so delightful, and what a love fest. I feel like a million times better than I did before. hanging out with y'all. Thank you both, and thank you all so much for joining us. If you don't have Light from Uncommon Stars, go get it. Right now, there's a link just beneath the video. You can also pre-order Even Greater Mistakes by Charlie Jane Anders, also right beneath the video. Do it, and I think we might be able to provide free shipping for you. So thank you guys all, and take care and be well.
Be well. Thank you, everyone. Be safe out there, okay? Love you. Bye.
Bye.